Welcome and thank you so much for watching this short video on resources to help you engage young people through the Attendance Champion Challenge. I am your moderator, Halima Adekoya. I am a former classroom educator, now Truman Fellow with the Office of Communications and Outreach here at the U.S. Department of Education. What is chronic absence? When we think about chronic absence, we think about when a student misses 10% or more days of school for any reason, meaning an excused or unexcused absence. That is as few as 2 days per month. The US rate of chronic absenteeism has significantly increased since the COVID-19 pandemic. During the 2021 through 2022 school year, 30%, roughly 15 million students, were chronically absent. Moreover, 2/3 of the K through 12 students in the US were attending a school where at least 20% of the student body were chronically absent. Given the unprecedented number of rural, suburban, and urban schools experiencing high chronic absenteeism rates, the Department of Education is running the Attendance Champion Challenge to elevate the importance of engaging young people in state and local efforts to address chronic absenteeism, an issue that has direct impact on their academic success. At this time, I'm going to introduce Alexia Everett, a strategy advisor within the Office of Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development, to share a few more ideas and insights into what we are doing here at the department to support chronic absenteeism.
Thanks, Halima. Hi, everyone. As part of our Raise the Bar, Lead the World initiative, the department is focused on 3 key strategies to improve student engagement. Key to academic success is a student's regular school attendance, which we're talking about here today. And this is one of many efforts the department is making on the issue of attendance and engagement. Another strategy is around high dosage tutoring programs, which accelerate student learning and, when aligned with students' instructional program, complement other school-based activities to support student success. And then finally, consistent attendance in summer programs with academic instruction can increase student outcomes in math and reading. And high-quality after-school programs can likewise, improve student math and reading achievement and also improve student sense of belonging. So the department is fortunate enough to have recognized many evidence-based interventions that exist to support student attendance and engagement, but I want to lift up one in particular. Everything starts by building bidirectional, trusting relationships with families and caregivers and students. And 2 principles that I think are very key to this challenge are: no one cares what you know till they know that you care, and nothing about us without us. So while there are many great interventions, a lot of them are grounded in these 2 principles. And this challenge in particular is focused on young people being a key voice and influencer in what they need to resolve the barriers to their attendance and engagement at school and make the most of their learning. So once again, we are encouraging everyone to participate in the Attendance Champion Challenge. We're inviting schools, community-based organizations, and young people themselves to identify barriers to attendance, engagement, and school connectedness in their community. And we want to hear about their creative solutions, particularly ones that build on evidence-based solutions. So for more information, if you don't already have it, here's the link to challenge.gov. You can also just go to challenge.gov and search for the word attendance, and you will find us. Please take a moment to follow the challenge once you get to the website, and then we'll continue to send information about new resources and opportunities as they arise. This challenge ends November 29th, 2024, so please act now and join us. Thanks. I'm going to pass it back to you, Helmi.
Thanks, Alexia. Now let's take a look at some resources that district schools, community-based organizations can use to engage young people through this challenge. Keep in mind, this is not a requirement that the resources be used. First, I'm going to introduce Tasha Harrell, Assistant Research Scientist at Johns Hopkins University with Everyone Graduates Center.
Thanks, Halima. Hello, my name is Tasha Harrell with the Everyone Graduate Center at Johns Hopkins University, where we identify barriers that stand in the way of all students graduating from high school, prepared for adult success, develop strategic solutions to overcome the barriers, and work closely with partners nationwide to build local capacity to implement and sustain effective practices to ensure students graduate on a pathway to adult success. I'd like to take a minute to thank the Office of Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development for providing us with this opportunity to uplift these important materials. My colleagues at the Grad Partnership, the National Partnerships for Student Success, and myself are really excited to share Amplifying Youth Voice, Strategies for Having Their Voices Heard, a resource designed for educators, school leaders, as well as community-based organizations to strategically and intentionally involve youth with identifying new ways of understanding barriers to school attendance and engagement, and make space for them to propose creative solutions. While we believe various groups can use this resource, it was designed with schools and community-based settings in mind. We believe that it was important for us to develop a resource for the Attendance Champions Challenge because through our extensive engagement with youth, school districts, and community partners, we learned that one of the missing links to understanding the root causes of chronic absenteeism is seeking students' perspectives and insights. To truly understand what's preventing young people from attending school, we need to ask young people directly. We have also found that far too often this simply doesn't happen. Policies are passed and practices are implemented without talking directly to students to understand their nuanced experiences and perspectives. With that said, we created a brief handout that checks 3 boxes. First, it defines student voice. Second, our resource explains how centering young people's unique perspectives enhances education systems for all. And finally, it provides 3 strategies schools and community organizations can use to start the process of collecting student perspectives. We conclude the document with a list of additional resources on student voice and other youth-led activities. We understand student voice as a process where educators, school leaders, and other supportive adults actively seek to understand young people's values and unique perspectives and use their insights to implement policy and practice changes based on shared ideas. This process enhances education by, first, building positive relationships and deepening trust, seeking student voice to provide feedback, share concerns, or be involved in decision-making processes that actively shape their educational experiences, help young people develop positive relationships with educators as well as supportive adults. It also increases equity. Student voice enables school leaders and supportive adults to hear young people's unique perspectives and discover specific deficiencies within their organization related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And finally, it promotes student engagement and fosters a collaborative learning environment. By allowing young people to share their ideas, it motivates them to become invested in their learning experiences. And when they feel their opinions are valued and taken seriously, young people become collaborative partners in their learning environments. In the upcoming presentations, you will hear a range of really unique and creative approaches to center the experiences of young people. Here, I will discuss 3 strategies that we included in our resource. The first strategy is peer-to-peer focus groups. A group of students self-select to be focus group moderators. With the support of educators and supportive adults, young people create a list of questions, organize focus groups, and synthesize and record the findings. Similarly, educators, school leaders, and supportive adults can support young people with creating interview protocols and conducting empathy interviews with their peers to better understand the root causes of chronic absenteeism. The final strategy is project-based learning, which involves young people designing, developing, and constructing hands-on solutions to a problem. A PBL approach to gathering student voice builds young people's creative capacity to collaboratively identify barriers to school attendance, as well as explore potential solutions. The amount of time that students take to complete the various strategies can vary, but ultimately it could be completed within a month or longer, depending on the end goal. Next slide, please. We hope that this resource will be useful for those joining the Attendance Champions Challenge and beyond. Ultimately, we truly hope it contributes to the larger effort to significantly reduce chronic absenteeism in schools and across our nation. I've included our social media accounts and contact information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or would like additional information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tasha. At this time, I am going to introduce Tanya Baker, the Executive Director of the National Writing Project.
Thank you, Halima. It's lovely to be here. I am Tanya Baker, the Executive Director of the National Writing Project. Next slide, please, Halima. The National Writing Project is the oldest and largest national network of teachers, that is focused on the teaching of writing. We're a professional development network where teachers share their practices in order to improve the teaching of writing. Fundamentally, at the Writing Project, we believe that students should write about things that impact them, are important to them, and that do work in the world right now. Writing should be taught in a way, we say, that is toolish rather than schoolish. In other words, students should have a clear audience, purpose, and choice about the things that they're going to write. Next slide, please, Halima. With that in mind, the National Writing Project created a professional development program that we call C3WP, which is focused on helping teachers teach argument writing. Next slide, please. This program was designed to answer the call for respectful argumentative discourse, and the instructional resources help teachers and students read critically, explore multiple points of view, and take a stand or take action on issues that are important to them. Next slide, please. Teachers in the program say that this program improves student writing, but more importantly, changes the nature of teaching and learning in their classroom, where teachers become facilitators and students and teachers create knowledge together. Next slide, please. Any resource created through C3WP and C3WP teachers focuses on a limited set of skills and practices so that students can see themselves getting better. They include texts that represent multiple perspectives on a single topic and move beyond pro and con idea, and involve iterative opportunities to read and write and build knowledge about a conversation that's focused on a particular topic. Students develop recursive claims that emerge and evolve through the reading and writing process. We have produced 2 educator-facing resources to support educators in creating lessons for students who are learning about and taking a stand on chronic absenteeism and engagement. One is called Who is at the Table, and the other is called Layered Reading and Writing. I'm just going to talk through this first one. They're very similar, actually, but Who's at the Table invites students to read, summarize key points, but to see the pieces they're reading as being written by someone who cares about the topic that they're interested in. For each subject that for each piece that they read, they sort of summarize key points and claims and add that person to the table. Let's go to the next slide, please. Basically, this is a note-taking tool where students summarize what someone else is saying. Once they've read several things, they pull their own seat up to the table in order to stake a claim on the subject at hand. You can go to the next slide, please, Halima. Both of our resources represent an assignment that could be done in one class period or spread across several, depending on how many things you'd like students to read. Each resource is teacher-facing with materials that can be shared with students. They're formatted as a forced copy Google Doc so that when you open one, you're making your own copy. You can take notes on it, you can change the readings, etc. Next slide, please, Halima. And actually the next slide. And I would just end by saying, here at the National Writing Project, we're really excited to see what solutions students propose to the problems of chronic absenteeism and increasing student engagement in school. So we wish everyone the best on the challenge and really look forward to seeing what you design. Thank you.
So appreciated, Tanya. Thank you so much for being here with us today to share your resources. At this time, I'm going to introduce Professor Emily Ozier and her team at the Youth-Led Participatory Action Research Team Space with the UC Berkeley Innovations for Youth and Institute of Human Development.
Thank you so much, Halima. So I'm Emily Ozier. I'm from UC Berkeley, and I am representing a large group, including practice partners and scholars from across the country who have joined together in a YPAR network. So, and we will be having another webinar to talk more in depth about our resources. And we will also be including student perspectives in that one. Thanks. Next slide. So this is a screenshot of our toolkit. This is up on our YPAR Hub site. I'll be showing you how to access that site in a minute. And this is a YPAR toolkit specifically focused on student engagement and absenteeism. Next, please. So what is YPAR? So YPAR stands for Youth-Led Participatory Action Research, and it's a special form of youth voice. And so building on the excellent framing provided by other folks on this call, what is special about YPAR as a form of student voice? So it's an approach in which students themselves are becoming researchers in their own schools and communities. And so it's an approach to research and positive adolescent development that trains and engages young people as researchers and experts to improve their lives and communities. And we've done a lot of work over 2 decades looking at the effects of YPAR on young people who participate and on their schools. So many of these projects focus on issues of school climate, of belonging, of relationships that have a lot to do with these issues of engagement and absenteeism. But it seems like this form of evidence that's generated by students, thousands of young people across the country are doing this. Often this form of evidence is not really showing up as data for school districts or nationally in this discussion on absenteeism and engagement. And you can see a few comments and perspectives from district administrators talking about the value of YPAR research and also how it can be combined and complement administrative data and other forms of research. Next slide, please. So YPAR is a research action cycle, often across a whole semester, or schools have done this and community-based organizations in different ways. It has multiple phases, and I'll just go to the next slide. So like these other forms of youth voice, it centers youth as experts. They can generate their own evidence based on their insider expertise about the kinds of what draws them to school, what gets in the way, often very creative strategies that don't necessarily require a lot of funding, but brings rich expertise to this conversation. Also noting that the kinds of skills that they're developing and doing YPAR, important forms of research inquiry, communication, presentations aligned with academic standards. Next, please. So in our YPAR toolkit and in our webinar that you'll also see posted, we'll be engaging with long-term partners who are doing this work on the ground and have their tips to share. Next slide. And we'll also be talking, Brian Villa from our team will be talking about an approach with our partners at San Francisco Unified about how they combined how students are engaging with their own school climate and absenteeism data and having practical approaches about how to do those workshops. Next, please. So here's a link to the YPAR Hub. This is where you can find our toolkit as well as many curricular activities and examples of YPAR from around the country and the world. And the last slide is this QR code. If you go here, it will connect you to a national YPAR network. And we are now creating technical assistance training and other kinds of workshops for K-12 educators and others. And so please go to this website and let us know your information if you want to be connected. So thanks very much. Back to you, Halima.
Thank you so much, Emily. At this time, I am going to introduce Ashley Denson, Managing Researcher with Education Northwest.
Thank you, Halima. So Education Northwest is a research, evaluation, and technical assistance nonprofit based in Portland, Oregon, and we have partners across the nation. Our vision is excellent and equitable education for all. And part of that, in the past few years, we've been looking more deeply at our alternative schools to identify the policies and practices that can help transform the system and set young people up for success in their education, career, and life. Through this work, we know that students in alternative schools can face structural barriers to school attendance. That may be pregnant or parenting, They could be working a job outside of school, be highly mobile students, or have other circumstances that make school attendance challenging. Next slide, please. So chronic absenteeism is an issue that really impacts students in alternative learning environments at a greater rate. The data on students in alternative learning environments is complex and incomplete, but for those campuses with which we have data available in the 2022-23 school year, as many as 59% of students in alternative education campuses were considered chronically absent. These numbers were slightly higher for Black and African American students, Hispanic or Latino students, female students, and students who are experiencing homelessness. Next slide, please. As these structural barriers persist, we developed a set of questions to better understand students' perspectives on what gets them to come to alternative school. As others on this call have described, collecting student voice is crucial to identifying opportunities for relevant and meaningful change in how we support student attendance. Next slide. While the issues that impact attendance can be sensitive topics, if done right, these discussions can really empower students to share their rich life experiences. Practitioners and policy advocates may consider using this as a tool to start conversations in high school alternatives, or students and their families can really use this as a tool to start talking through and thinking through some of these complex issues. We provided a series of considerations first for working with students in alternative school to ensure that students feel seen and safe during these discussions. This guidance is wide-ranging for making sure that students understand what you're doing with the information that you collect, as well as to affirm students' cultures, identities, backgrounds, and experiences, and foster a sense of belonging among students. Next slide. Then we really provide a series of questions for students in alternative schools. These questions focus on what makes students go to school, the assets that students bring with them, as well as what schools may be able to provide to support student attendance. These questions also address structural barriers to students' attendance. For the purpose of this challenge, these questions can really serve as a guide to ensure that you're able to have rich discussions with students while also allowing students to go off script and share what's most meaningful for them in regards to attending school. This discussion will likely take about 45 minutes, but it could be more or less depending on how much students want to share. Next slide. Finally, we provide some guidance for how to do group engagement through a listening session. Listening sessions can be a great way for a group of students to share their experiences, but it's really important that adults are considerate of and able to navigate power dynamics and relationships between students during these discussions. Be mindful of the students that you put together so that students are not embarrassed or re-traumatized as they share their experiences. Additionally, it's always good to set up group norms. We provided some examples here to get you started to ensure that expectations are clear at the beginning of the discussion. Or better yet, have students co-develop group norms with you at the beginning of the discussion. Next slide, please. So my email address is located on the resource and also here. Please reach out if you have any thoughts or questions about this resource, or if you have any other thoughts or questions on how to support our students in alternative education. And back to you, Halima.
Thank you so much, Ashley. We appreciate your resources. I'm going to, at this time, introduce Catherine Cooney, Director of Communications with Attendance Work.
Thank you, Halima, and hi, everyone. Next slide, please. Attendance Works is a national nonprofit that advances student success and works to close equity gaps by reducing chronic absence. We do this by collaborating with policymakers, educators, and researchers. We've been working to address student challenges to being in school since our founder published research showing that the reasons third graders were not reading at grade level was because they were missing too many days of school. During the past 14 years, we have worked with scores of school districts, and what we have found out is that those with the highest student attendance are those that have taken time to find out from families and students what the challenges are that are keeping kids out of school. They have worked with families and students when developing solutions to chronic absence, and they are inviting community partners like local YMCAs or after-school programs to help them out. Next slide, please. So research tells us that chronic absence doesn't just affect the students who aren't in school, it also affects their peers who notice when they aren't there in the seat next to them, and it also makes it difficult for teachers to teach. Next slide, please. One of the first questions we might want to ask is, why would a student want to do a project about chronic absenteeism? Well, one answer is that we know that the best way to improve student attendance is to ask students themselves what they think about the issue. Our work tells us that there are certain conditions for learning that create a school environment that students want to be in, including a school that's physically safe as well as emotionally safe. The students feel connected to the school or to an adult there, and it's a place where the curriculum is engaging, challenging, and relevant. Next slide. So for this slide, for this challenge, Attendance Works created a guide to support doing a student-led research project that culminates in a social media campaign. The results of this investigation can be shared with the school leadership or school board so that they can be aware of the reasons why so many kids are missing school, and they can work to implement solutions to address those challenges. The social media guide has prompts as well as links to resources to help students conduct the investigation. We recommend a few steps in this investigation. First, look at the chronic absence data. How many students in your school are chronically absent? Districts often have this data. If that's not available, the guide includes a link to an interactive map where you can find your district's chronic absence rate. Questions you might ask about the data? Well, look for trends. Are there certain groups of students who are chronically absent, or perhaps from the same neighborhood? Second, investigate the reasons for absences by talking with your peers. This can be done using data tools such as school climate surveys, student-led surveys, or interviews. Some schools have conducted these, and students can ask if they can see the surveys, or they can develop their own. The kind of things students might offer as challenges when asked are lack of reliable transportation to school, or perhaps they have a chronic health problem and lack access to health care, or they may be experiencing higher levels of anxiety than they had before the pandemic. Or perhaps they don't like attending school because they are so far behind in one or more courses. Then ask your peers what will help them overcome this challenge. Or what is it that will motivate them to attend regularly? This can help you find solutions. Then use those findings to develop a social media messaging campaign. The social media campaign could raise awareness of the issue, communicate to other students that they are seen, that the school understands their challenges, and you can let them know the school is there to support them. This campaign can also lift up the many positive opportunities students can access when they attend school, which could be socializing, collaborating with other students, having some fun, and learning. Finally, we encourage students to share their findings with the principal, the school board, or other local leaders. We think the findings from this type of investigation go a long way towards helping schools and district leaders develop the right interventions that address the particular challenges that are affecting the students in your school and community. And these findings can encourage these leaders to introduce some modifications that can motivate students to attend regularly. Next slide, please. So our Attendance Works websites are full of data tools as well as other resources for educators, including handouts for families and online toolkits. And we have also created posters and social media messaging to help raise awareness. I've got my email on this slide, so I encourage you to reach out if you have any questions about chronic absence or about this challenge. Thank you very much. Back to you, Halima.
To all of our organizations gathered here today, thank you so much for being willing to share your resources. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to just join us to share how we can engage young people in the work of attendance. Thank you to everyone who are tuned in to this short video on resources and tools and engaging young people. It is critical that we engage them in this work when we think about a multi-pronged approach to supporting students and getting them into our schools every single day. When we ask them, I am sure and I will testify that they will surely listen and provide us with the solutions. And we must be quick to act. The current problem is that there is not enough student-facing organizations like those gathered here today being able to engage young people in how do we actually hear from them and get them to share their solutions with getting to school every day. So of course, if there are any resources out there, please do feel free to share with us here at the U.S. Department of Education. We would love to hear from you. And do not forget to participate in the challenge. Remember that every day counts. Thank you, everybody.